Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. I'm Sarah Jane. This is Gift of Healing TV and a brand new Life Mastery series with my good friend in the States, David McLeod. David, thank you for sharing with us over the next 4 months, one a week for 4 months. One a month for 4 months. Welcome to, and thank you for joining us.
Well, and thank you, Sarah Jane. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody else. What a great time to be talking about making our lives better. You know, the beginning of a year.
Oh, absolutely. And taking that forward through the year as well. So it's not just about now. So let me just do a very brief introduction of David. For those of you that haven't been aware, he's joined me a number of times before on programs, because we have known each other for quite a while. Fighter pilot, software engineer, poet, musician, father, student, teacher, husband, mentor. These roles and many others add up to a lot of life experience, which David McLeod brings to bear in his capacity as an author, transformational speaker, life mastery coach, and experiential facilitator. Can't get my teeth around that. Facilitator. That's it. That's the one. With a PhD in metaphysical sciences and a Doctor of Divinity in holistic personal coaching, David shares his wisdom, insights, personal lessons, and experience in countless ways that help people all over the world to become true masters of their lives. You can find out more about David at his primary website, yourlifemasterycoach.com. We will give you those links at the end of the program as well, folks, so don't worry about that. David, thank you for joining us, and because obviously we sort of want to go straight into this, I think the first question to actually ask you is, what is life mastery?
That's a great question. I like to think of it as, well, let me give you a bit of a metaphor, if you like. Think about something that you like to do, like perhaps you like to play bridge, or you like to do knitting or quilting, or maybe you're more active and you like to do martial arts like judo or karate or something, or maybe you're a chess player or something. Every one of the things that I've described, they basically requires you to learn a few basic skills. And once you've learned those few basic skills and you get those to the maximum level possible, you really understand them and all the rest of it, you work your way towards what we call a master of that skill or that game or that whatever that is. Well, I look at it and say, well, why is life any different? Why don't we have people who are life masters? You know, and I thought about this a lot. And so for me, life mastery is about learning a number of key skills, becoming really good at them, and then continuing to develop them over time to become more well-versed in all aspects of life. That's how I would describe it.
Whoops. But that makes sense because, okay, as a Reiki master, the basics, it is about learning the basics and then moving on from that. But it's called practice. At the end of the day, you have to practice. You can't become a bridge master or a master at karate. You so-called get your first dan, but your first dan's the basics. And bearing in mind, sort of a very special friend of mine is sort of just taken his fourth dan, and then there are people who've done their seventh and goodness knows what else.
Right.
It is a matter of practicing it on a daily basis. So you aren't going to actually become a life master without practicing on a daily basis. So what would you call a life mastery path? And how do people get on it? And I think it's going to be different for everybody.
Well, that's a good question as well. as I said, there are, in my view, I mean, there's millions of skills that we could learn in life. Okay. But I have, based on my own experience and the kinds of challenges that I've had in my lifetime, and noticing the kinds of things that really propelled me forward in becoming a more grounded and centered person, someone who was less attached to the ego, someone who's more open. These are things, the skills that I had to learn were things like acceptance, awareness, compassion, forgiveness, self-identity, and a variety of other things. These are skills that I had to learn. But what I discovered was if I learned them in a particular order, it helped to accelerate the process of becoming more skilled, if you know what I mean. Well, the interesting thing about that is, as you say, it is a practice. So what I have learned is it's really kind of a cycle. You start at one part of the cycle, you learn that skill, you practice that skill, and then you move on to the next one and so on. And you start out pretty slowly at first, right? You want to focus your attention on each individual skill to the maximum extent possible when you first begin. But as you get better at it, then you can just kind of start moving more quickly around the cycle. And before you know it, almost every interaction you have involves some conscious awareness of all aspects of that cycle all at the same time. That's what I mean by life mastery. And you're absolutely right. It does require practice. It does require a continual effort, which sounds like it's work. But in reality, it's the more you do it, the easier it gets, the less worksome it is, as I like to say, tell people. And it actually becomes very enjoyable. And this is what I mean about the life mastery path. So I hope that answers your question.
And I think really, as you go through each one from what you're saying, but the one you did first changes to a degree when you do the second one and can expand and grow. And you don't necessarily have to work on that. It's as you move round, each one grows. It's like having faith and belief in yourself, like loving yourself. You start with the basics of loving yourself. But as you move around and grow in confidence with yourself, so the love can grow. And as you move from that, you move, and each one of them can keep growing as you move round. And as you said, it doesn't become like work. You actually realize you're finding the love in your life. You're finding the joy. You're finding the happiness. You're not affected by other people. And their thoughts and their reactions to things. You stay out of judgment. And life becomes, to me, when you can master your life, it actually becomes so much easier because you don't let anybody else interfere with it. So there are obviously benefits to life mastery. And I think I think I've said something that potentially is a benefit, but what do you think are the benefits of it?
Benefits of life mastery?
Yeah.
Well, I think, first of all, I need to describe the basic underpinning, the foundational element of life mastery, as far as I'm concerned, is awareness. I can't do anything to improve my life unless I am willing to become totally aware of everything that's going on in my life. Not only externally, things around me, but also internally. How am I reacting to those things in my life? How am I showing up to other people? How is my ego mind chattering in my head about what's going on? What are the judgments that I have? What are the feelings and the sensations that I have as a result of these things that are going on around me? Now, the key point about awareness is that it is completely observational. That is to say, it's simply recognizing what is so. It isn't about judging it or having an opinion about it or trying to interpret it in any way. It's just about noticing what is so. That is what awareness is to me. Once I establish that awareness, then I can start moving to the next phase, which is about acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with everything that's going on around me, or that I necessarily want to encourage that to continue. It merely says, this is what's going on. I can accept it as what it is.
Yeah.
Once I do that, then the ability to change it starts to come into being. All right? So acceptance of what is around me is only half of the picture. The other half, that's even more important, is self-acceptance. That is to say, okay, this is how I am in this moment, and being okay with that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As I continue this practice, and there's many other steps involved, as I continue this practice, what happens is I notice a quieting of my ego mind. So I'm not in this reactive mode in my life as much as I might have been in the past. That has amazing benefits. First of all, it reduces stress dramatically. You know, if my mind is quiet, I tend not to be too worried about stuff. I tend to be more relaxed, which is good for my heart. It's good for my physical well-being. Really, it's good for the way I show up to other people. People want more time with me when I am less reactive. So that to me, that is a huge benefit unto itself. Secondly, once I begin the process of learning to accept myself for what I am, and just recognizing the truth of that, that is where the ability to love myself starts to come in. And once I start loving myself, and that is all of myself, including those parts that I'm maybe not so crazy about, when I learn to love myself fully and totally, that is when I now begin to be able to love others unconditionally. So the growth of unconditional love starts developing. And what happens is this is a benefit not only to me, but to the whole planet.
Oh, absolutely. Just take a very simple example. For years, I think most of us have got very stressed being stuck in a traffic jam.
Yes.
And when I sort of started this whole journey, it was just like, why am I getting stressed? I can't control this. I can't change it. And so the only person who's actually getting stressed out by this is me. Well, there may be loads of other people, but actually it's my stress that affects me. Not other people's stress that affects me, because we're all in our cars separately. So I can't hear and see anything that's going on in their car. And it was just like, so I'm stuck in a traffic jam. I can't do anything about it. I am not going to get stressed. Last year, I got stuck in a traffic jam for 2 hours. And I know people have got stuck in them for a lot longer. But that 2 hours actually ended up by going relatively quickly because I didn't get stressed. The more stressed you are with something, it's like that watch pot never boils.
Right.
It seems a lot longer.
Yeah, I was going to just add to that. When this is a great example that you've picked, the idea of being caught stuck in a traffic jam and finding yourself, building up that stressful energy. What you are doing is contributing to a whole field of stress. Yeah. And that is affecting everybody. And so I know for myself, when that happens, it's hard. It's difficult for me to just bring myself into a relaxed state. This is what it is. This is where I am right now. I know I'm feeling this stress, so I'm just going to do some deep breathing. I'm going to remind myself that I am a loving, amazing human being, and I'm just going to try and do my best to relax. I will do my part to try and reduce that field of stress by practicing some of the skills that I talk about in my Life Mastery Path program.
And do you know what? That does make a huge difference, because with this particular event last year, it was a really, really hot day, quite early in the year, actually, for the UK. And I got loads of water in the car, and because everybody's windows were wound down, and there was a lady in the car next to me, and I heard her on the mobile saying, I didn't even bring any water with me. And it was her and her older mother, obviously much older mother, but a much older lady. And so I'd got some actual glass jars, and they were all clean. And so I went across with one of the bottles of water and said, would you like some water? She said, oh, you heard me. And I said, I did. But actually, the people that I saw and witnessed that had got out their cars, everybody around me seemed to actually be, nothing we can do about it. They seemed to be quite calm about it. And it's the energies that I was giving off, as you say, if you're chucking out stress energies, you're going to find all that stress around you, isn't it? It's what they say is what you concentrate on is what comes at you, is all that you see. So when you're concentrating on the negative, that's all you're going to see. And so that's exactly what that is about, isn't it? By concentrating on, do you know what? Just get on with it. You give that energy out, you give that calmness out to others, and therefore it really benefits you because it bounces back at you.
Yes, absolutely. And in addition to that, I'm sure that when you got out of your car to offer your gift of water to the other people, well, those people themselves were very positively affected by that act. But anybody else who was in the neighborhood, in the vicinity, who happened to witness that, probably had a really good feeling in their heart too. So that simple act benefited your stress level, and it also benefited the stress level of everybody around you. And who knows what kind of a ripple effect that has. I mean, every time we do something, it's like throwing a rock into the pond.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, once you've let that rock go, you can't unthrow the rock. You can maybe throw a different rock later, but you know, you're stuck with the rock you just threw. So what kind of a rock do you want to throw? What kind of ripple do you want to create? That's the question that I think we should all be asking ourselves all the time. And furthermore, I think the kind of ripple that we choose to create is very, very tightly coupled with the kind of person we are in this moment, or who we are choosing to express ourselves as in this moment.
Oh, yeah. And we all find ourselves in that stressed mode. You know, I get that. There are things that do that to me. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I am perfect. We are all perfect. We just can change that perfection. But we have to view ourselves as being perfect. You know, I'm imperfect as I'm perfect. So, but okay. So what are the elements of this path? And how hard, I suppose the hardness, the easiness of it is different for everybody. And it's how, to me, it would be how determined almost you are that actually you are going to improve your life.
For me, the way I have interpreted the growth path, the life mastery path, as I said, there's one underpinning foundational pillar, which is awareness. Underneath that is this cycle of skills, if you like, starting with acceptance, moving towards identity, that is knowing who I really am, knowing and consciously self-creating myself, the next version of myself for who I really am. Choice, which is really about recognizing that every single moment I am making a choice. What choice do I choose to make? It's that rock in the pond thing. Once I've gotten past choice, the next thing I can start looking at is compassion. Compassion now is a very special skill that is about looking at, it's a combination of empathy and helping or having the desire to help someone reduce suffering. That's what compassion is. Once I learn compassion for others, I can learn compassion for myself. And then I can move into the next phase, which is about forgiveness. So compassion and forgiveness have a similar energy about them. They both require unconditional love, but they have a different kind of activity, if you like, that's involved in them. So now I get into this stage of practicing forgiveness. Once I have a clear sense of forgiveness, now I can start moving into the next phase, which is really about understanding my purpose. Purpose has to come out of who I am and in my state of compassion and forgiveness, so I'm no longer bound up by my judgments of other people. And now I can look at my purpose more clearly, and I can begin to align myself with my purpose. And alignment with my purpose now moves us into the next field, which is integrity. Integrity for me is about having my thoughts, words, actions, and emotions all aligned together, but they're also running parallel to my life purpose, my soul purpose. Next is the concept of, well, now that I have integrity, now I can see when I'm out of integrity, I can start looking at this concept of shadow. That is, those parts of myself that I hide, repress, or deny because I think that they're bad or wrong or whatever. And those parts which, unfortunately, I've cast into the background, and yet they still have a life of their own. And sometimes those aspects of me pull me out of integrity with my purpose. And that's what's beautiful about having the purpose in the first place. Now I can see when I'm out of integrity, and I can start to recognize when my shadow is in play. Once I have a better understanding of shadow, now I can move into this concept of relationship. Now you would think, wait a minute, relationship is everywhere. Relationship is something that we are involved in from the moment we're born. And that's absolutely correct. The problem is most of us take relationship 100% for granted. We don't even realize how we're involved with it, and we don't realize what it does for us. Relationship is one of the most powerful gifts that we have in this physical world. It's an opportunity to see ourselves in relation to other beings, other non-animate beings. We get to see ourselves and how we're showing up in relation to those. But the beauty of it is, when I'm in relationship with anybody, including you, Sarah, I begin to see aspects of myself showing up. When I'm in a deeper relationship with you, for example, sometimes you'll do things that will trigger my shadows. Well, if I'm not aware of this whole concept of shadow, then I'm going to become very reactive, very defensive. It's not going to be a pleasant relationship. But when I do have that understanding, which we already did in the previous step, now I can go into relationships completely open, ready to see myself and experience myself fully. And then once we've got the relationship piece pretty much down, we now move into what I call the final step of the cycle, which is flow. Flow is what I call presence in action. That is to say, everything I do, I try to be right here, right now with it. And I try to go with the flow as much as possible, staying in relationship with everything that shows up in my life, getting to know myself more deeply, and so on. And you can see now that all of life is a flow anyway, but many of us spend a lot of our time resisting that flow. And it's not because it's because our ego minds get in the way, really. Once we've gone through this cycle a few times, it gets easier and easier and easier to be in that flow. And then what happens? Now you've gone through this entire cycle, you begin to appreciate what I call the entire sphere of gratitude that surrounds you. It's an energy field that we all have access to. And gratitude is like the most amazing force in the universe. If you can learn to say thank you for everything that happens in your life, believe me, your life will be just amazing after. And it's hard sometimes to say thank you, especially when something's happened that you really don't like. But anyway, those are the elements of the Life Mastery Path. And, I teach them in some detail in my upcoming program, which is going to be released, publicized very, very shortly here. But, and we can talk, we'll be talking more of that over the next couple of months.
Yeah, because that's the Life Mastery way.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I think, the answer's got to be that because question would be, well, how long does it take? But it's got to be, do you know what? That's dependent on each individual. The gratitude thing is a huge thing. I actually do a whole load of gratitude stuff every morning. And I say thank you at night. Stuff goes wrong, I say thank you, because even getting held up in that traffic jam, I was where I was needed to be. Although I believe it was a horse trailer, it was a trailer that had animals in it, and all I hope is that they were all right. I don't know the outcome of it, but it was a motorway in the UK, and it closed it in both directions. But I just hope, and it was just like, okay, got the Reiki, I opened the Reiki channel, the energies of doing what I did.
Right.
But in that respect, I was grateful that I was actually there when I was there, because I was able to bring those energies in. Yeah, I was meant to be going for lunch with my mum, who should only be about 2.5 hours away from me. It was more like 5 hours it took me to get to her. But it was just one of those things. I was able to communicate with her so that she wasn't worried. But it's being grateful in spite of. And before we started, I was sort of saying that I'd actually stood up for myself earlier, during last year, not earlier this year, during last year, and said no to something. And I'm very grateful I had the strength to stick to that being true to myself. Mm-hmm. Because what it has done for all those involved, and it is spread out from there, is actually give other people permission to be more honest. And then, so honesty comes into this as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yep.
So, but how long, I mean, you've obviously worked with a number of people. Are you still going through it? Because I know I'm still going through it.
Life mastery is not a destination. That's a very important thing. It's kind of like enlightenment. People talk about being enlightened. Well, I'm sorry. I honestly don't think there is such a thing as being enlightened. I'm done now. I can flip the switch. I'm complete. I don't think it works that way. I think the truth is enlightenment is a process. Just like life mastery is a process. No matter how good I get at life, there's something better I can do. I think of it this way. When I was, when I was a kid and I was in school, I remember being in kindergarten, and I remember being out in the play yard, looking out across the way at the first graders. Those guys are so amazing. Look how advanced they are. I sure hope that I can be like that one day. Well, sure enough, soon enough, I'm in the first grade. But then what am I doing? I'm looking at the second graders and I'm thinking, oh man, I hope I could be like them one day. But that same time, I happened to look back the other way and I saw a couple of kindergartners, this one kid looking at me like there was something special about me. And I thought, I think this was my very first aha moment in my life, where I realized no matter where you are on the path, there's going to be people ahead of you and people behind you. So you can reach forward and get some help, or you can reach back and help the person behind you. And that's what I think we're here to do. So how long does it take? It's a lifetime process.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I went through the first 35, 40 years of my life pretty much unconsciously. And I did some things that caused me to get into a state where I was in a pretty high level of resentment and anger. And that had a negative impact on the people in my life. There was an event that happened that kind of woke me up to this and said, I've got to do something to change this. Unfortunately, I had no clue where to go. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what the tools were. So I ended up bouncing around from one thing to another until I gathered all this information that I have created for myself. And that's taken me the better part of 25 years. Now, does it have to take 25 years to learn this stuff? No. That's why I put together this program, because I think people can learn it in less than a year. They can learn it, and then they can begin practicing it, and they can let it become something that they can devote their entire lives to without interfering with anything else they're doing. In fact, it will amplify what else they're doing, improve their lives in a big way. That's what I believe.
But I think it also helps you to be true in your own life. Yeah, I had the wake-up call. I had no idea what to do with it. And slowly the different bits came to me on my path, my journey. And our paths and journeys are the same, but they're not, because they are unique to ourselves. But it's that wake-up call. You just got to listen to so many different people. All the people I've listened to, they've all had that wake-up call of to some degree. Some of them have been way stronger than others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people who've had ill health, people who've lost everything. You know, that there are so many different things that different people have gone through. But when you put it all together, you think every single one of them has had what they've referred to as a wake-up call, or they've had a bomb put under them, you know, whatever it is. But it's suddenly, hang on, I've got to do something about my life.
Right.
And there are an awful lot of us, yourself, myself, and other people that we both know, that have gone through stuff, and they have started from the very beginning, and they are now able, we are now able to offer to those who choose it a slightly quicker route to the start, but the work still has to be done by you as the individual. We cannot do it for you.
Right.
And with what all of us share, you have to then take it and find what works for you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What I like to think is each and every single one of us has a purpose. We may not always know what that purpose is, and sometimes, I know in my case this was true, sometimes we bounce around from one thing to another because it seems like a good idea at the time, and it feels like it might be a calling. More often than not, you end up experiencing something like, oh, I guess that wasn't it, and so now you start looking for the next thing. What I am proposing is a program that helps people to get to that stage of being clear of their purpose as early as possible in their life, so that the rest of their life they can devote to that purpose authentically, truthfully, honestly, and openly, knowing that they are really expressing and experiencing the fullness of who they really are. That is what I am here to do, to help people to do. So it's not about helping them to become a life master more quickly. It's about helping them to get to a place where they can master their own life more quickly and have fewer and fewer of these missteps like I have had, and like it sounds like you've had too.
But then I suppose personally, I don't see any of them as missteps. They were something we needed to go through, and we learn from them. Every single one of them we learn from. So I don't look at something as being a misstep.
Well, I agree with you there on that,
so,
Sarah. However, I'm going to say this. What if you could avoid the missteps in the first place? What if, I have no objection to the fact that you want to learn something by doing and trying something and experiencing, and maybe that's the way you need to learn. But not everybody is like that. What I am saying is there are plenty of missteps you could eliminate if you had a clear sense of purpose. You know who you really are right from the get-go. This is the real challenge that we all face. Otherwise, you're going to be bouncing around from one thing to another, and that may be your path. Go ahead, do it. I'm not trying to stop you. Yeah. I'm only saying if you want to bypass some of that stuff and really make your life blossom much more quickly, then I think you have to do some of this work sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of us here who are here to help people so they haven't got to go through the 20, 30 years that we've gone through. I'm not saying that, sort of that everybody's got to go through it for 20, 30 years, because no, why would the likes of us come down, and the likes of all the other people, the Neil Donald Walshes of this world, the Eckhart Tolles of this world, why would they be here if every single one of us had to go through 20, 30 years? Because there's going to be a time where people don't have to go through it for that long. That's why so many of us, and the gifts that we bring and the gifts that you bring, are here to help people to do it quicker than we did.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, if I could start my life over again, knowing what I know now, I imagine that I would have a much more impactful life than I have had so far. Much more in the sense that I could have actually accomplished a lot more in the way of helping other people. I could have, if I had aligned myself with my purpose earlier on, things would be very different in my life. Now, that's not to say that there was anything wrong with the path I took. It served its purpose. I am just saying that people now have the opportunity to skip over a lot of the, let's call them negative or non-functional or distractional kinds of events that they don't really need to do anymore. Okay?
Yeah.
We have captured and pulled together a lot of information over years and years of effort and time. And I mean, not just yours life and my life, but everybody's life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's all good stuff. So people who are coming into the world now and who are still pretty young and who are looking to improve their lives, this is the time for them to start taking on a program like this, or something like what you teach. What doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're moving towards your own unavoidable spiritual evolution.
Absolutely. And it is about helping people to do just that, to become more in control of their own lives and be truer and more honest with themselves, to be in integrity with themselves. It starts within all of us, and then it can just blossom out from us. So your Life Mastery Way, when will that become available? Because obviously there will be people that will want to know more about it. And we're over the next 4 months, this month included, so up to and including April, we're going to be sharing more information during this period on these programs. So do look at the Gift of Healing TV website. They are actually all there on the upcoming page, sort of what we're going to be covering. Do check that out. And I'm sure David's sharing it as well on his website. And what did we say that was? That's yourlifemasterycoach.com. In fact, let me put that into the chat box for those that are here. And we better put the www dot in there. I didn't put enough W's. So that
run out of W's, is that what you said?
I only put 2 in instead of 3.
Oh,
I didn't put in nothing.
Well, actually, Sarah, that's just my main Life Mastery Coaching website. If people want to find out more about this program, they can go to a special page that I've created called lifemasteryinanutshell.com. Now, for the next few days, I'm going to have an ebook available there absolutely for free. People can sign up and get that ebook, and that will help to explain more about the program. So it gives a high-level overview. Now, as to the Life Mastery Way program itself, we are in the final stages of development on that, and it's going to be released within the next probably couple of weeks, maybe a little bit longer. I'm not sure exactly how much technical stuff needs to be done. But once that happens, people will be able to go to that website and sign up and participate in, any number of the modules that are available. And I'm looking forward to when that's released. So.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And so can people contact you through both your website and the In a Nutshell one, or how do people get in touch with you? Because I'm sure, folks, if you've got questions, and I know we've got sort of people with us live, so if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them. And don't think there's any question that's a daft question, because if you're thinking and wanting to ask it, somebody else will be as well. So there's no such thing as a daft question. Trust me.
Yeah. People can get a hold of me through either of those websites. When they sign up for my Life Mastery in a Nutshell ebook, they'll automatically be added to my list. I will be contacting them anyway. So if they want to contact me, they just simply have to reply to any of the emails I send.
Brilliant. I think we've covered everything for this particular program, unless there's anything that I've missed that you think you'd like to add at this point.
I think we've done a great job, Sarah. We've covered a lot of material. I'm sure that some people are swimming in whatever material that we've offered, and I don't want to overwhelm them. So I think this would be a good time to wrap it up.
No, brilliant. But folks, if you're thinking, oh, but I can't remember some things that David said, this I'm going to be giving the link to David so that he can share it as well. This. And it's going to be on the Gift of Healing TV catch-up pages under the interviews. So if you're not watching it on YouTube, because it's going up there as well, then if you're watching live and you're thinking, I want to, but actually if you're watching me live, watching us live here, hopefully you're watching through the webinar jam anyway. So you will automatically get a link to the replay. But by tomorrow morning, because it's evening here in the UK, it's lunchtime with you, isn't it, David? Mountain time in the States.
That's right. But 1 o'clock or so here now.
Yeah. So so do please feel free. If you've got questions for either David or for myself, feel free to contact us, ask us, and we hope that you will join us next month. Now, next week, I'm doing Thoughtful Nuggets and Pearls. People aren't mind readers, so I hope that you will join me for that. And then the next one with David is on the 14th of February.
Valentine's Day.
Yes,
what a day for love.
Yes, I had noticed that. The 2 infuriating questions. So I'm looking forward to finding out what they are. And I'm really looking forward to that. So David, thank you for joining us, folks. I hope you will join us again, and everybody's being quiet that is with us live. So that's fine. I have no issues with that. I hope that, yes, that's a point. Today's date is the 10th of January. It's midnight on Friday Mountain Time that the offer for David's book comes down. So if you're watching it after Friday, then the offer for the free book has come down. That's up to you then whether you contact David. That's up to you and up to David. But the offer for the free book comes down then. So David, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again next month. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, folks, for joining us. Those of you that joined us live, those of you who are watching it, the replay. Much appreciated. Have a good rest of day, whether it's just evening or a whole day. And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you for having me, and goodbye, everybody.
It's been a pleasure, David. Night, folks, or bye, folks.